We learned today that Harvard University is going to sit down with the protesters and talk about the potential for defunding some of their investments from Israel. That's where they're all going with this, right? Trinity University, I'm sad to say, over in Ireland, just became the very first university in the world to commit to defunding Israel, taking those investments that are in Israel out of their portfolio. I mean, I hate to remind everyone, but you know what? Those endowments, those help pay for the scholarships of all those kids. And by the way, those endowments get bigger when you make smart investments because we're a capitalist country, right? And by the way, the technology that's come out of Israel is incredible. And so they've had just venture after venture after venture that succeeded. And so logically, if you're investing and trying to grow the college funds for everyone so you can pay for all those scholarships, then you're going to want to make as much money as possible, which means, yes, you're going to have a diversified investment portfolio, including probably some companies in Israel. So they want them to no longer have that. Trinity completely folded over in Ireland, in Dublin, Ireland. And now Harvard is sort of next in line to say, oh, okay, maybe we'll talk to you. I'm telling you, you can't negotiate with them. That's sort of like the flaw in this, right? Like that's the first mistake. Over at Columbia University, my alma mater, by the way, I'm just stunned and disgusted by everything that's happened there. The president of that university, she made the mistake of saying, okay, I'm going to negotiate with these protesters. And then she started negotiating and she said, you got to be off campus by Thursday night. Well, guess what? They weren't off campus by Thursday night. They're still on campus. They had to shut down graduation. These kids couldn't even graduate in their cap and gown. I was just looking at some old pictures on my phone the other day and I'm like, oh, there I am. Actually, we didn't have iPhones back then. So this was a picture I took with my iPhone of a snapshot of me in my little cap and gown and me and my mom. They don't get to have that experience. No, it got wiped out because the protesters are in the way of all this. So it's kind of a mistake. Well, there were also the protesters everywhere. They were at Duke University at the commencement speech the other day. Can we see this? Drew, one of the, they're walking out. So one of you viewers, I read all your comments. So feel free to make a comment below there. I read all of them. One of you guys was saying in yesterday's show how it's actually kind of remarkable that not more people walked out. And I love that because, I'm glass half full too. And so this is the Seinfeld commencement speech. And some of the pro-Palestinian protesters decided to just walk out peacefully enough. They just got up and they walked out. And I love that sort of glass half full. You know what? It's not like the whole school left. It's just a few of them got up in protest. And I'll tell you, those few people, they really needed to hear what Jerry Seinfeld had to say because Jerry had a pretty darn good message. By the way, the other day he was on with Bill Maher and he's like, I'm over it. You know what? If Trump wins, Trump wins. We're not going to be like petty about all this stuff. It's America, right? And America can select its president. Anyway, he had a terrific message and one that these privileged little brats needed to actually hear and take to heart. And I want you to hear some of it right now. Let's play it.
Privilege is a word that has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I would like to take a moment to defend it. Again, a lot of you are thinking, I can't believe they invited this guy. Too late. I say, use your privilege. I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian. Thanks. If I messed up a funny story around my relatives, they would go, that's not how you tell that joke. The prostitute has to be behind the drapes when the wife comes in. You went to Duke. That is an unbelievable privilege. I now have an honorary doctorate of humane letters degree from Duke University. And if I can figure out a way to use that, I will. I haven't figured anything out yet. I think it's pretty much as useful in real life as this outfit I'm wearing. But so what? I'll take it. My point is we're embarrassed about things we should be proud of and proud of things we should be embarrassed about. When I was writing my TV series, thanks. What a crowd. So on my staff in the 90s, we had a lot of Harvard guys. They were fantastic, but I could never understand why these guys were so embarrassed about being from Harvard. They would never talk about it. They would never mention it. I'm not talking about Harvard now. I'm talking about the way it used to be. You're never going to believe this. Harvard used to be a great place to go to school. Now it's Duke.
Okay. And he goes on and on about Harvard. He's got some funny jokes there about how Harvard kids, like, they're so embarrassed. They don't want to tell you where they went to school. And so they'll just say Boston. And then if you narrow it down, maybe they'll say Cambridge. And then eventually you find out they went to Harvard. Usually I can tell they've gone to Harvard because they're like, well, how do I say this nicely? I can count on one hand the normal people I know that went to Harvard. I'm sorry, but it takes a very special breed. And I say this as a Columbia grad. You know, Yale people, they're great. Columbia, maybe not so much anymore, right? But, you know, you're going back a ways with me. And then the Harvard people, like, they're their own special breed. Really and truly. Anyway, he picked up on that too. But I thought it was a good message. Because you know what? We should be honored to have the privilege we have. Like, we should be proud of it. You should be proud of where you came from and what your family's been able to achieve. And, you know, with each and every generation, we hopefully do a little bit better. My dad, like, they didn't have shoes, right? Like, they didn't have shoes. They didn't have food. A big Irish Catholic family, 8 kids. Had it not been for the church, like, I don't know what would have happened to them. And the whole idea was, you know what, you do better so that the next generation can do a little bit better. And that's exactly what happened. And then I want to see my kids do better. And I want my grandchildren to do better. I mean, this is normal human stuff, right? So if we have a little bit of privilege, we honor that privilege. We're proud of that privilege. And we use that privilege to try and get a little bit more for the next generation. And that is the American dream. That's the opportunity that people come from all over to try and achieve. That's what makes this country the success it is. And so for people to just want to wipe it out and annihilate it, that is wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. And I hope that the pendulum is starting to shift. I think when you see this kind of support for Donald Trump, it is shifting and people are like, wait a second, you know what? We do need to make America great again. We are a terrific country and we've lost sight of that. We don't know if we're a man or a woman. We don't know if it's sunny out or cloudy out. We don't know if it's day or night, right? We're like too much in our heads with all this philosophical nonsense. Don't get me wrong. I get it. Like, there is a small percentage of the population that struggles with some of that stuff. But when you're going around to the 5th graders and saying, here, fill out a form and tell me if you're non-binary, it's too much. All right? It's just too much. So kids need, we all need, thank you very much, a little simplicity in life. Right? Simplicity goes a long way. Pride in yourself goes a long way. And this is not to take away from anyone else. I think we're actually an incredibly empathetic culture. But it's gone too far. And it's gone too far to the point where it starts to feel as though it's getting dangerous. And this is why I think most Americans are saying, no, enough. That's why most Americans are coming around. The polls now show Donald Trump overall some 5 points ahead, nationally speaking. And in all of those swing states, he's ahead. And you know what? When you're at the Duke University campus at the graduation, yes, a small group of privileged brats are leaving and not listening to the commencement speaker, but 98% of them are still there because they believe in that institution. They believe in something bigger. They believe in the American culture. And you know what? We have to cling to that. We have to remember that because that's what's going to get us through. We need to go back to basics, ladies and gentlemen. Don't overthink everything. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of this country. Be proud of our heritage. Be proud of yourself. I leave you with that message.